So yeah, alternative Christmas movies. I mean, this is a bit of a bone of contention for some people, isn't it? What constitutes as a Christmas movie? Obviously, if we think about things where we've got a story about Santa Claus or Father Christmas or the Christmas fairy or whatever it is, then it tends to be, pretty much solidly identified as a Christmas movie. But there are other films where Christmas is going on in the background. And some people have it that, these are Christmas movies also. Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I think, you see, one of the ones that always comes up in these debates, isn't it, is Die Hard.
We go. And people always say, if you're going to say Die Hard, you got to say Die Hard too. Because exactly. That takes place a year later at Christmas.
Exactly. And I think it is. I think if Christmas is in the film at all, then that's what denotes it being a Christmas film, even if it's just in the background, really. I think that's kind of, if you could pull any identifier out, that would be it. Because you can't just say, oh, Santa's got to be in it, because there's plenty of Christmas films without Santa, but maybe there's other things going on,
Absolutely. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if there's a Christmas tree up in the background, no matter what else is going on, you're allowed to identify it as a Christmas movie. I mean, Absolutely. That's one thing I always remember about Lethal Weapon. I think it's Lethal Weapon, but it always starts with Jingle Bell, Jingle Bell, Jingle Bell Rock. And so straight away, the music is telling you it's Christmas time.
It's a Christmas film, yeah, exactly.
Somebody's about to get blasted or murdered or something terrible is going to happen. But just to let you know, we're also pulling crackers, getting paid. It's unwrapping presents. It's Christmas time.
I think there's this thing that some people seem to think like the film's got to be this wholesome family kind of thingy film, and the moment like something like Die Hard or Lethal Weapon, where it's like it's an action film, they're like, how can it be Christmassy? It's all violent, and it's like, well, you got to have something for us guys as well who want to see people blown the smithereens,
and some girls too. I'm sure some girls love to see some pump action, of course, blasting going on and some explosions going off. But I mean that goes one step further into another subgenre. You could say Christmas horror movie. So you've got something, mildly horrific like Gremlins. That all takes place at Christmas.
Yeah.
And over the Christmas period, and, they all turn into monsters and run amok, end up murdering people out in the snow there.
Yeah, and there's obviously things like Black Christmas and, full on kind of horror flicks, which are the Christmas films at the end of the day,
Und the Krampus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right, that's it. When we got the Krampus coming, you're in for a bad time. But there's also an interesting point to be made, I think, with certain films that they might not have a Christmas background whatsoever. They've got nothing to do with Christmas, but because they were always on TV at Christmas, especially when you were a kid, you can also consider some of these Christmas movies, in a way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of films that we associate with Christmas, just because we're always around each other at the time. It's a family event, and especially here in the UK, certain films were always put on at Christmas, and we associate them with Christmas. I don't think they're Christmas films, but I do think they've got a close affiliation for some people with the
I think if you were going to categorize them, you couldn't say the genre was Christmas, but if you said, on a personal level, it's a good Christmas movie, we always watch, Dr. Zhivago or Spy Who Loved Me or whatever it happened to be. When I was a kid, they used to always put the Star Wars movies on telly. So I, in a funny way, I think of the original trilogy Star Wars, especially the very first movie, as very much associated with Christmas.
That's it. And, for me, it was always like The Great Escape was always on.
Yeah.
The Wizard of Oz, Sound of Music.
They seemed, in the olden days, they seemed to put all the greatest classic movies on.
Yeah.
The Great Escape every year, and you always watched it and you always loved it.
Yeah, but because people tend to not have much to do, and obviously they cram the schedules because, they need to put content on, I think, and they're going to be guaranteed huge audiences. So it always seemed to be an easy go-to, really.
I think especially in the bad old days as well, because, before cable TV or satellite TV was properly rolled out, when there was just, 4 or 5 terrestrial channels, then, you'd get the TV guide each year, and it'd be, bumper edition. And they'd put, you'd go, I would anyway, I'd always go through the film section and see what was going to be on each year and each day. And they'd have premieres of certain films, and it was a lot bigger deal than it is nowadays. Nowadays, it seems to have, just been diluted, especially now we've got the internet and everything else. So, people just watch what they want. Hopefully you're watching us talk about movies.
That's it. I think that's exactly it. I mean, people didn't have access to films in the same way. Things like, even when videos came along, they were a lot more expensive. So it was a unique opportunity to see, classic films that weren't available. So, yeah, a special time.
That's also a tradition of movies getting released at Christmas. And I'd never really been one to go to the cinema at Christmas because, as you've said, your schedule is usually quite packed at Christmas, and you're either doing nothing at all and not leaving the house, or you're busy seeing lots of relatives. And it wasn't usually a time of year to go to the cinema, but movies do get released around this time of year, particularly holiday themed movies. I do remember one year going to see Night at the Museum. My sister and I went to see that on Boxing Day one year, and that was the day it was released. So it wasn't a Christmas movie, I don't think, but it was, it's got that kind of holiday feel, family film.
Yeah, it's the release schedule thing, and I think particularly in more recent years, thinking of obviously things like Star Wars in recent years has been a Christmas release, and a lot of the big films now, they tend to go for it to think that the money is there to do it, really. And
sure,
it's a great opportunity to catch people in free time. So it has become a bit of a hot point for the movie industry, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're happy to include Die Hards, and I mean, some people say it's not Christmas until Hans Gruber has fell off the top of the Nakatomi building. I mean, it's like, that's their number one go-to Christmas movie.
And I totally agree. Until I hear them words, yippee-ki-yay, mother, it's not Christmas.
No. Okay, so yeah, are we satisfied? I think we've pretty much run the gamut there with alternative Christmas movies.
Absolutely.
There we go.